Is going on, Nuggets Nation, NBA fans? I'm Tom Leuthner. Welcome back into Nuggets Today. Obviously, the camera and scenery looks a little bit different. I am on the road, but I still want to get some content out for you guys. We are post night two for the NBA draft, and Denver has yet to do anything to surprise me, and that is a little bit of a problem. So we're gonna hop into that. So the first topic I got here is Denver can still make a few pretty big moves after Wednesday night, which was round one, and that is the fact that the Trailblazers took Hanson Yang, and that the Suns took Malawak and also traded for Mark Williams. So that means there's two centers on the market right now. One center is somebody I believe I covered in the past, and that is, I think I've covered both these centers actually, and that is Rob Williams, and the next is obviously Nick Richards. Now, I know for Rob Williams, contracts are a little difficult, and it may be a little weird to trade for Rob Williams because you're going to have to give up a little bit more than you would like. So I think that gets a little tough. Obviously, Zeke Naji would be in there, but you might have to also include Watson, unless you're maybe including just or just Julian Strawther and maybe Jalen Pickett or Hunter Tyson, Jalen Pickett. I think there's going to be more in that kind of trade than you would really like to give up. So I think maybe you steer away from that. And Nick Richards is a guy who's not the best first or starting center option in the NBA. So why not? I'm sure the Suns would take the 31 first. I'm sure the Suns would take a contract of a guy like Hunter Tyson, Pickett, Najee, Dario Saric, obviously. I would have to look more into how the contracts would work, but I'm sure the Suns would look into getting rid of now one of the big guys they have, and moving on, getting again if we shop Hunter Tyson, send him out. He's a spot up shooter. They still want to move the contracts of O'Neal and Grayson Allen from what I've heard. So why not go ahead and attempt to make those kinds of moves? I really don't understand why Denver wouldn't look to do that, because you still need a backup center at this point. Like I said, nothing was done within the draft, and that's something that we obviously have to cover. But at the same time, why wouldn't you look to trade for a guy like Nick Richards? Now, I'm not saying, like I said, I'm not saying Nick Richards is his number one option, who's a great center, but he's also a competent center as your backup option. I've covered him in the past, and I will continue to do so until Denver finally makes a move for one of those centers, and I think that is Nick Richards. So let's hop into the second topic here, and that is what I truly would have loved from Denver in this past draft, and that was taking one of Bojo, Rocco, or Tyrese Proctor in one of those late picks and attempting to actually make a move from them. So from what I've seen and what I've been told, Ben Tenzer supposedly tried to make moves and almost got into the first and second round, but decided not to make the trades. Now, what I have to say about that is that you have to make those trades. If you don't want to be Calvin Booth, you have to think about it. You have to realize what would work for Denver, what would work right now, and to make those moves. I'm not sure what those moves were that wouldn't have worked for Denver in a scenario like that, but there's not much that you could sit there and tell me was, Denver would have had to trade Julian Strawther for a second round pick. Now, I love Strawther, right? But supposedly Denver wants to be aggressive in the free agency. Then why wouldn't you trade Strawther for that second round pick, be aggressive, and go get a guy like Taurean Prince who can make up for those Strawther minutes? You have a guy like Rocco. You have a guy like Bojo who are on the board. You have a guy like Tyrese Proctor who's a backup point guard who's on the board. Why not go ahead and attempt to make those moves for guys that you can legitimately use? I'm not really understanding the whole point of Ben Tenzer's comment and what was said and what the thought process is, because you are now a GM in a system that wants to change from the previous management. You have to make those kinds of moves. This isn't a sit back and wait kind of situation. You are now wasting the prime years of Jokic if you do not go ahead and make a move. And like I said, they said they want to be aggressive in free agency, so then I will get to that. What I was hoping from the free agency, like I just said, Ben Tenzer in the presser said that they were going to be aggressive for the guys they wanted. So now, unless they got the guys they wanted within the post-draft timeline, they signed Tamar Bates from Missouri. right after the draft as an unsigned free or undrafted free agent rather. If that's the guy you really wanted, then so be it. But you cannot tell me there were not other guys in the late first or second round that you did not want to go out and make a move for. What I was hoping after hearing the press conference was that Ben Tenzer, John Wallace, Stanley Kroenke would go out and make a move that would really help Denver and actually change up this franchise a bit. And I'm not saying that's trade MPJ. I'm not saying that's trade Christian Brown. I'm not saying that's trade Aaron Gordon. But make a move, any kind of move. I was going into the draft with the thought that Hunter Tyson will be gone from the roster in this upcoming year. I didn't have these great hopes that Zeke Najee's contract would be off the books or Dario Saric's contract would be off the books. I had hopes that Hunter Tyson, and I'm not saying I don't like Hunter Tyson. I do like Hunter Tyson a lot, actually. I don't think that he could really be a part of Denver's offense next year. But I went into this draft hoping that Hunter Tyson would officially be gone from Denver's roster, not because I don't like Hunter Tyson, but because Denver finally traded for a pick. Now, I know it's not Ben Tender and John Wallace's fault that we don't have picks. It's Calvin Booth's, obviously. But I was praying that we finally made up our minds and said, you know what? We have to get over this hump of not making any kind of moves, helping our team out, and we're going to trade Hunter Tyson, go get maybe a second rounder, and draft anybody at that point. Now, I know there's some undrafted free agents, like I said. Denver made the move to draft Tamar Bates, or to pick up Tamar Bates. Why not go after Nembhard's brother? So at this point, the time this episode is being recorded, right after the draft, obviously, why not go after Nembhard's brother maybe? If you can go and get him, he's obviously somebody that's played and practiced his entire life with somebody who's in the NBA. Why not go ahead and try to just pick him up? Give him a chance. We've seen guys who are on 10 days who can make their way work, make their game work. Why not go ahead and give it the chance? The last topic I want to cover is somebody who's on contract next year, and that is Zeke Naji. So obviously I told you, or not Zeke Naji, Deron Holmes, sorry. Got the power forwards confused. Like I was saying, I would have obviously loved to see Denver trade into maybe the late first round, early second round, but we're going to have to live with who our first round pick was last year, who's technically a rookie this upcoming year, and that is Deron Holmes. Now, I think Deron Holmes could be good, and I've covered him so many episodes. I think he will be a great bench piece for Denver if they can bring in 2 or 3 more bench pieces, especially with Russ gone. I think that's a pretty big hit for Denver. It's not the biggest hit in the world, but Deron Holmes can really be a great bench piece for Denver, and I would love to see him play. But I'm going to have to live with now Deron Holmes being the rookie for this past offseason, strictly because Calvin Booth wanted to trade our picks away. Ben Tenzer and John Wallace didn't want to trade into the draft to pick anybody up. So Deron Holmes is going to be that guy. And you have to hope that Deron Holmes really lives up to that potential. Now, do I think he can be? Or that he can live up to that potential? 100% I do. I mean, I've covered him multiple episodes saying that I think that, 3 and D, stretch 4 or 5 can be that kind of guy. And I really hope that he can live up to the standards that I have for him because I think he can be that good. So, again, I'll live with it. I'm not too upset about it. I wish that Denver would have tried to make any kind of move, whether that was trading in to get a pick or trading in to get a role player that 2 teams traded a pick and you just jumped in there somehow, maybe even grabbing some second rounders for the future, a future first, whatever it may have been. And Denver obviously did not do that. And like I said, the reports I've been seeing is that Denver wants to be aggressive in free agency. So let's see if that happens. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys today, Nuggets Nation. Leave a comment, leave a like, hit that subscribe button. If you guys want me to cover anybody, let me know, and I will catch you guys tomorrow.